This video covers Chapter 3 of the book, the GCSE Higher Maths, and going to be looking at different graphs and things. We're going to start off with pie charts. Now, the key to drawing or interpreting a pie chart is what we want to do is we need to find the angle for one item. Now that item might be a person, it might be a number of cars, but it will be in the question, the angle for one item. Now we get two types of questions. One question where you get like a table, and if you've got a table you need to find the total from the table. Find the total from the table. Sometimes it's in the question, gives you what the total is, and then what we need to do is we need to make that total equal to 360, because 360 is a full pie chart. Yeah, that's a full circle, a full turn. So that's the complete pie chart has got to equal the total. And then what we can do from there is, if our total is 20, I would divide both sides by 20 and work out the angle needed for one thing. But in general, if we just divide by whatever our total is, then what we'll get on this side, the left hand side, we'll get one item or one thing, and then we'll get the angle for that one thing. And once you've got the angle for one thing, you can then find the angle so for any number of things. So from here we can multiply up to find the angle needed for any number of items. Yeah, and that'll give you the angle for them. A different type of question might say, okay, here's an angle, and this angle represents a part of the pie chart. So let's say that we're given an angle of, let's say we can work out from the pie chart that 5 people is equal to let's say 60 degrees on a pie chart. We use the same method. We want to work out the angle needed for one item or one person, which means divided by 5. So here we can get that one person, 60 divided by 5 is 12. One person is 12 degrees, and that's pretty much the same as what we got over in the previous bit that we did over here. One item equals an angle, one item equals an angle, so it works out in the same way. So whether you've got the total equals 360 or whether you've got a bit of the pie chart equals an angle and a certain number of people, it's the same way. Work out the angle needed for one item. So that's the first topic. The second one here is draw and interpret line graphs. This is nice and easy. So these are graphs that tend to be like things that go like this. Yeah, and with these line graphs, we just need to read off from them. Yeah, so these are line graphs. This is nice and easy. What you need to do is normally read off from them, or you might be asked to complete one. So I would say just be careful of the scale on the axis. Watch out for the scale rate. Make sure you know what one square is worth. And that's pretty much it with line graphs. Okay, so the next topic here we've got mode, median and range, and decide which average to use. Okay, so we've done these two. We'll now move on to mode, median, range. So we're going to start by looking at finding these averages and the range from a list of numbers. Yeah, and then we'll look at tables. Tables comes up later on. They're the next two items actually. So we can do all three of these together. So averages. So we've got a mode. Okay, it's the value that occurs the most, the value that comes up the most. Then we've got median. Now median is the middle value, but you've got to put the numbers in order first. So put numbers in order of size, then find the middle numbers. Now remember, if you've got two numbers in the middle, so if I had something like 6, 8, 11, 17, okay, and I cross the numbers off to find the middle number. Okay, so here we've got 2 in the middle, and to find a number that's in the middle of those, what we do, we add them together and divide by 2 if you've got two numbers in the middle. So that'll be 19 divided by 2, which is 9.5. So in this case, the median would be 9.5. So we've got mode, median. The mean is when you find the total of the numbers, and then we divide by the number of numbers, So if I was doing it with the 4 numbers that I've got down there, 6, 8, 11, 17, I would do 6 plus 8 plus 11 plus 17 and divide that by 4. Now when you do this type of question, write down what the total of the numbers is. Don't just do the whole thing on your calculator. So I'll write 6 plus 8 plus 11 plus 17, 42. So you'd write 42 over 4 before writing down the final answer. So don't just do it all in one step. And that gives me 10.5. So for the example I've got, the mean is 10.5. And then the other one we have, it's not really an average, but we use it when we're measuring averages, is the range. That tells us how far the numbers are spread out. And this is the largest value minus the smallest value. Right, now what we want to be able to do is to now do these calculations from tables. So, right, so now we're going to be looking at finding the mean from a frequency table and also estimating the mean from grouped frequency. But we're also, I'm going to add to this how we find mode, or the modal class if it's group data, modal class, or how, and also how we find the median, or the class in which the median lies. Okay, which group the median is in. Right, so let's look at just the frequency table. So a frequency table is going to have some sort of data in the first column. So let's say that is the number of pets that people have. So let's say they can either own 0, 1, 2, 3 or 4 pets. In the second column is going to be the frequency. So this is going to be how many people have this number of pets. So let's say that 8 people have no pets, 10 people have 1 pet, 7 people have 2 pets, 3 people have 3 pets, and 2 people have 2 pets. 2 people have 4 pets. And what we want to do is to work out the mean. We'll start with the mean. Now the mean, what we want is the total of the data, and we want to divide that by the total of the frequency, so total frequency. Now how do we find the total of the data? Well, we multiply these pairs of numbers together and find the total of those numbers. So if I multiply them together, I get 0, 10, 14, 9, and 8. And in this example, I want the total of those. So that's going to be 10 plus 14 plus 9 plus 8. Let's just work that out. 10 plus 14 plus 9 plus 8. And that's 41. And I want the total of the frequency. Well, I just add up the numbers in that column. So that's going to be 10 or 8 plus 10 plus 7 plus 3 plus 2. And that's 30. So there's my mean, but I might want to change it to a decimal. So if I do 41 divided by 30, and I get 1.36 recurring. Yeah, and I could round that to one decimal place. So I could write that as 1.37 actually to 2 decimal places. So that's the mean. Yeah, total of the data, and we get that by multiplying the columns. Then we want the total of the frequency. Now, to find the mode, okay, to find the mode, it's basically the number or the value that's next to the highest frequency. So I'll just write down value next to the, oops, I missed a T out there, next to the highest frequency. Now if I look at this question, my question here, the highest frequency is 10 and the value next to the highest frequency is 1. So in my example here, the mode is 1. Yep, because that's the number next to the highest frequency, the value next to the highest frequency. And to find the median, we want to find where we're going to find the middle number. What is the middle number? The median. Well, what we do, we find a total of our values, we add 1 to it, divide by 2. That will give us the position of the middle number. And we're basically going to go down the table until we find a number in that position. Now, how do we do that? Well, we're going to add another little column in this table, which I'm going to put at the end, just here. And what I'm going to put here is what position number I get to in each group. So, for example, the first group, or not the first group, but the first line here, this has got 8 numbers in it because it's got a frequency of 8. So this takes me up to the 8th number. Okay, it goes from the 1st to the 8th. Maybe that might be more useful. So I know it goes to the 8th. It's the first number to the 8th number. Okay, how about the next group? Well, you see I've got 10 in that, but I'm going from the 8th number, and then I've got 10 more, so I'm going to the 18th number. So this group goes from the 9th to the 18th number, the 9th, because that comes after the 8th. So I did 10 plus 8 to get 18. So now I'll do 10 plus 8 plus 7. We'll just add 7 to 18 to get 25. So this goes from the 25th up to the 25th number from the 19th number. 25 plus 8, 25, sorry, plus 3 is 28. This goes up to the 28th number from the 26th. 26, 27th, 28th. That's 3 numbers. And then if I add another 2 to that, I get 30. So I get to the 30th number. So this is the 29th and 30th number. Now in this example, my frequency is 30. I add 1 to that, divide by 2, so that's 31 divided by 2. That will give me 15.5. So the position of the middle number is the 15.5th number. So I'm going to use my table to work out where it is. Is the 15.5th number here? No. Is it here? Yes. The 15.5th number is in between there somewhere. So the median is 1 in this example. Okay, so I've got a mode of 1, and I'll actually get a median of 1 as well. Okay, so let me just highlight those answers. So this was my mean. This was my median, sorry, my mode. And here, this was the working to find my median. Okay, so what if the data is in groups? So a grouped frequency table. Now, lots of stuff that we do is the same. There are 1 or 2 things that are slightly different, but pretty much it's the same. So let's say our first column, which is the data, was the height of a plant. And the second column is our frequency. Just be aware that sometimes these columns or these tables can go side to side rather than straight down like this. So H is going to be the height of the plant, and that's going to be in centimeters. So it can be from 0 to 10 centimeters. It can be from 10 to 20, 20 to 30, or 30 to 40. So these symbols here, just make sure that numbers can go in one group and not the other, and they don't overlap. So for example, if I have a look, this group here, if I had a plant that was exactly height 10, it wouldn't go in this group because this is less than 10. It will go in this group. So these groups don't overlap. So let's put some frequencies in. So let's say we've got 5, 11, 9, and 8. And if I want to find the mean, now how did we do the mean before? The mean was the total of the data times the frequency. Now to find the total of the data, we still times like we did before, but we times by the middle number of these groups, because you can't times by 0 and 5. You've got to choose a number. So we choose the middle number, what we call the midpoint. So let me just write those down. So 5, 15, 25, 35. Okay, so you do midpoint times by frequency. Let's just write that down. Midpoint times frequency. That's slightly different. And we want the total. That will give us the total of the data. And we divide that by the total frequency. Total frequency. So my calculation is going to be, well, let's write them down. 5 times 5 is 25. 15 times 11, let's write that out. 15 times 11, 165. 25 times 9, 225. And 35 times by 8, which is 280. Okay, so the total of my data is 25 plus 165 plus 225 plus 280, which is 695. So remember, write these totals down. Don't just do it all on your calculator without showing what you've done. Divided by the total of the frequencies, which I'll get from here. So 5 plus 11 plus 9 plus 8, 33. So to find the mean, I do 695 divided by 33, and that's 21.06 to 2 decimal places. So I'll just put 2dp. Okay, so that's our mean. And actually, in these questions, you'll be asked to estimate the mean. Now the reason why it's an estimate is because we're using this midpoint here. It's a number that doesn't really exist in the data. We've made it up so that we can estimate the mean. Okay, so the mean is always estimated because we don't know the actual heights of each individual plant. For example, in the top row of the table, all we know, well, there's 5 plants somewhere in between 0 and 10. We don't know what the height of any individual plant was because we've grouped them together. That's why it's an estimate. So that's the mean. Now, instead of being asked for the mode, you'll be asked for what's called the modal class. Now, to find the mode, what did we do? It was the value next to the highest frequency. Here we just write down the group next to the highest frequency. Okay, so group next to the highest frequency. It's the group with the highest frequency. And if I look down this table, I can see that the highest frequency is 11. And this is the group next to it, stuff in black, so I'll just write that down for this one. So that would be 10 less than or equal to h less than 20. So what the stuff you see in purple is for this particular question. And then the last thing is you could be asked for the class in which the median lies. So if I just write median class. Now again, it's very similar to what we did before. So median was total frequency plus 1 divided by 2 to give us the position. So the total frequency is 33. If I add 1 to that and divide by 2, that's 34 divided by 2, so I get 17. So 17, or the 17th number, is where I find the middle number. So where do I find the 17th number? We're going to do something that's very similar to before. So this first group goes from the first number to the 5th. Yeah. 5 plus 11 is 16th. So this group goes from the 6th to the 16th number. 16 plus 9, 25. So the next group goes from the 17th to the 25th number. 25 plus 8, 33. So the next group goes from the 26th to the 33rd number. And I just want to use my table to work out where to find this 17th value. Is it in the first row? No. Is it in the second row? No. It's just in here. 17th value, yeah? So I would write down that the median class is this 20H30. So I write that down exactly as I see it. So 20 less than or equal to H less than 30. So that is where I would find the middle number. So just like before, I'm just going to highlight the answers for the question. So there's the mean, there's the modal class, and here's the class in which I'd find the median or the middle number. Next thing on the list is scatter diagrams. This should be nice and straightforward. You just need to know about what the different types of scatter diagram look like. You're often asked to complete a scatter graph. Yeah, so I'm just going to draw the different types that we get. So if we have crosses going in an upward direction like this, yeah, they may be a bit looser than that, but generally in an upward direction, this is what we call a positive correlation. If our crosses generally go down in a downward direction like this, this is what we call a negative correlation. And if the x's are scattered everywhere, I suppose that's why it's called a scatter diagram, and there's sort of no upward or downward trend, we say that there is no correlation. Now, in a question to do with scatter diagrams, you're often asked that there'll be an incomplete scatter diagram, and then you just put a few more points on there and fill them in. If you have a point that doesn't seem to fit the pattern, that's way off. So for example, if I had a cross that was like up here that I plotted and it's way off from the other, it doesn't mean you've plotted it wrong, but we do give that a name. Okay, there might be one like that on this type of graph. It's called an outlier. Yeah, it doesn't fit in. So they might ask you a question about that, the point that doesn't really fit in. Maybe it's a mistake, somebody didn't write the numbers down right. It may or may not be reliable, or it may be something that's completely different to the others. If you are asked about the correlation, then you use the words either positive, I'll write positive like this, negative, negative like that, or none. If you are asked for the relationship, you write a sentence down. Yeah, so you might have a scatter graph that is to do with the age of a car and how much it costs. So here's an example of writing a relationship down. You don't write negative correlation. You might write something like, the older the car, the less it costs. Yeah, that's a relationship. So don't confuse the two. Often you're asked to draw what we call a line of best fit on a scatter diagram. So that will take us to this last bit here, line of best fit. So a line of best fit is this line that we draw. So we've got some crosses drawn on our scatter diagram like this, and we try and draw a line that's as close to all the crosses as possible. Yeah, now you're given a bit of leeway when the examiner's marking, but I might draw a line, maybe something like this, just a couple of points. Don't force it to go for the origin. Okay, so line of best fit doesn't always go through the origin. The origin is basically that point in the corner, so it doesn't always go there. Don't force it to go down there. Sometimes then, once you've drawn your line of best fit, you need to read off from your scatter diagram. And let's say they ask you to read off a value that's somewhere over here, way off from all the other points that you've drawn. You might make your line a bit longer like that and try and read it off. But the point is that values that are way different from the ones that you've been given, they're not reliable. Yeah, so if I have plotted points that only go up to here, and I'm asked to read off from a point that's much further on and try and extend that line of best fit, it's not reliable, because is that line going to carry on like that? I might draw some crosses and then they start to go down, or they start to go up and they do something completely different. Yeah, we know what goes on here, that's fine, but way beyond that, it's not reliable. Okay, so we'll just say that trying to read off values way different to the ones we've been given are not reliable, or is not reliable, or are not reliable, because I've said values. Yeah, the actual word that we use is extrapolation. We're trying to extrapolate. Yeah, and you can't always do that. Yeah, it may not be appropriate to do so. Okay, so this covers everything that's in chapter 3 from the GCSE Higher textbook.